With us now from Washington is CBSN political contributor and Democratic strategist Lynda Tran, as well as editor-in-chief of The Hill, Bob Cusack. And here on set in New York is CBSN political contributor and Republican strategist Leslie Sanchez. All right, Leslie, to you first. Melania Trump in Philly, days before the election. Give me a sense of how significant that is.
I think it's always an important move. The first ladies and also women who are the spouses of candidates who run for office humanize the candidate. They're somebody who tells those private stories. You know, remember Michelle Obama talked about she's hiding credit card bills from her husband. Like they basically say that they're very relatable, but they're very good spokespeople for the type of character that their husbands have. So it's a great thing. She's interesting. She's certainly glamorous. She was very much a star until you had the plagiarism cloud that followed her at the convention, and she's not seen very often. So I think for that reason alone, she's going to draw a tremendous amount of attention.
We've come a long way from Teresa Heinz.
Oh my gosh, with the multiple languages.
Right.
But she came across as very arrogant, remember? And that was kind of the problem. John Kerry was aloof, and she compounded that narrative.
It seemed like it was beneath her.
Absolutely.
Politics and this whole
English
race.
was like the last language she chose. You know, it's like, yes, I'm really more European.
Yes.
Yeah, that didn't go well. That did not go well.
Lynda, we've also learned that what the Clintons will be doing the night before election night on Monday night, they're going to be joined by the Obamas. They're going to campaign together in Philadelphia. What do you make of that? Why Philadelphia?
Well, Philadelphia is a place that certainly loves them some Barack Obama and loves some Michelle Obama. So it's going to be a place where they're going to be welcomed by essentially a hometown crowd, although they're not from there. So it's no surprise that they're going to be rallying the troops and talking about the history of that night there.
And Bob, let me ask you about this. There's a new CBS poll out this morning that shows that 63% of likely black voters are very enthusiastic about voting, but that's down from 77% in 2012. Should this be a concern right now for Hillary Clinton?
I think it's her biggest concern right now. I don't think that the black turnout is going to be as high as it was in 2008 and 2012, but they have to get it higher than those numbers that you just mentioned. This is President Obama said publicly he's concerned about that. Now, there are indications that the Latino vote is going to be very strong, and that's a good thing for Hillary Clinton. But at the same time, they've got to get more people to vote. The more people vote, the better chances Hillary Clinton has to win. And this race has gotten a lot tighter over the last week.
And I'll ask all three of you to comment on this. But, Bob, do you think that the reason we've seen this dampening in African-American enthusiasm is because specifically of the candidate, or are there other things going on behind the scenes that we may not be aware of? For example, the inability to get to those early polling places. I'm just wondering, you know, what you've seen and what you can report that is behind this lack of enthusiasm.
Well, listen, I think it's hard to compare and to expect that the first black president who was elected and then reelected, and that you're going to have the same percentage of African Americans voting for Hillary Clinton. I think that obviously they want to get 90%, 95%, and that's probably the best that they can hope for. I do think that this race has been very nasty, and I think that has turned off a lot of voters, no matter what the demographic or race. So I think that's part of it, and certainly Democrats have filed suit in a number of states claiming voter suppression. So they claim that's also a part of it. But there's no doubt about it. I think the Hillary Clinton campaign, in the closing days of this campaign, they better cut some ads that talk to African Americans. And President Obama is going to have a big role over the next several days trying to get the vote out.
Leslie Clinton, we know Hillary Clinton was in Arizona, typically red state. It hasn't gone blue since her husband ran in 1996.
Right.
We have a soundbite from her last night. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
As the political pundits like to say, this state is in play for the first time in years. Arizona has only voted for a Democrat for president once since 1948, and that was my husband in 1996. So for the first time, we have a real chance to turn this state blue again.
So the polls actually show Trump with a slight edge, but there's a huge Hispanic community there, mobilized by the immigration issue. Do you think she has a real shot at this?
No, I think overall the Republican numbers look strong, and there are a lot of conservative. You'll see more ticket splitters in Arizona, and that was something that was a big concern to John McCain. I think John McCain has worked very hard because he felt there was going to be this surge of Clinton voters that could have effect on his Senate race. He's been in a very competitive one. Yeah. And to her point, Donald Trump has had this maddening effect of turning solid solidly red states purple or shades of purple, and she's speaking to that now. But I think fundamentally, conservative Democrats are coming in the fold and Republican women are coming in, and I think there's a strong enough firewall to keep it red.
Lynda, it's interesting to me. There's a new poll out by the Washington Post, ABC News, talking about which candidate voters feel is more trustworthy. And Donald Trump right now is leading in that category. But the Washington Post also points out that, and I'm going to look at their numbers here, 63% of the 91 Trump statements that the Washington Post fact checkers have checked were given a 4 Pinocchio rating. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton received 14.2% of her statements got Pinocchios. So what is the perception here? Explain for our viewers why we may be seeing those higher numbers for Donald Trump as opposed to Hillary Clinton, even though clearly on the campaign trail he said things that many people consider, well, it's not many people, they are untrue.
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of it is something we've been talking about the entire cycle long. People have these baked-in opinions about Hillary Clinton and perhaps less baked-in opinions about Donald Trump at this point. And, you know, like it, disagree with it, agree with it. It seems that this notion of being honest is something that's been challenging her all along the way. I would point out, though, that the other thing that's really notable about that poll that you reference is the breakdown among white college-educated women. So I honestly think that this is really where things are going to break this election cycle. And while we're gaming out, you know, whether or not the national polls are tightening and polls in particular battleground states are tightening, the numbers when you look at white college-educated women are not particularly positive for Donald Trump. Mitt Romney at this point, you know, he won white college-educated women by something like 6 points. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is behind with that group by 27 points. That's definitely a structural problem for him, and I think that's going to come to bear when it comes to Election Day.
Bob, we know Trump is hitting Florida hard. He's done a bunch of rallies there. And last night we heard him telling himself to stay on message. Let's listen to that bite.
We are going to win the great state of Florida. And we are going to win the White House. Going to win it. It's feeling like it already, isn't it? Just, we've got to be nice and cool, nice and cool. Right, stay on point, Donald, stay on point. No sidetracks, Donald, nice and easy, nice. Because I've been watching Hillary the last few days. She's totally unhinged. We don't want any of that.
We've talked a lot about a tale of two Trumps on this campaign trail. Is this the Trump we're going to cool, calm, collected on message Trump the final days before the election?
If he's going to win this election, yes. And clearly, I think he's mimicking some of his advisors, perhaps Kellyanne Conway, his campaign manager. He's a showman, he's entertaining, and he's got the momentum in this race. But he is behind still because there are more paths to 270 electoral votes for Hillary Clinton than there are for Donald Trump. But in the wake of the bombshell FBI news last week, this is doable for Donald Trump, and if he stays on message, talks about policy a lot, keeps his focus on Hillary Clinton, not Paul Ryan or any other private citizen like the Gold Star family, the Kahns, he can pull this off. He's got to win Florida, and he's got to win Ohio. Those are must-wins for Donald Trump.
Leslie, I'm intrigued, and one of the other things that we've seen in these tightening numbers is what Mike Pence has called out to Republicans. Come on home, come on back, right? We've started to see Lindsey McConnell. He's been very quiet throughout this entire election cycle. Yesterday, talking about Trump, saying that he's obviously supporting Donald Trump. The one I'm intrigued about, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, you know, these guys in the primary battle, they ran a rough and tumble primary battle. Donald Trump accused his father of having something to do with the Kennedy assassination. Yeah. There was a lot of stuff flying around the wives. And then Ted Cruz had that moment at the convention where you and I were sitting there watching him say the things that he said. But now he seems to be getting in line. What's behind that?
Ted Cruz definitely senses that he needs to politically survive not only this election but his state, because if we remember, when he did not publicly come out at the Republican convention and say he was going to get behind the nominee, the Texas delegation turned against him. They were very upset. I was in Texas last week when he did vote, and he came out to reporters and said, I voted straight ticket. He wouldn't even mention Trump's name, which is something he's done in the past. But basically, he's licking his wounds. He's going out there. It was a very contentious fight. This is not a game. This is not, you know, a sandbox or what do you call it, ping pong or anything. This is a very tough sport when you get into politics, but he's also lining himself up. If Trump loses, and he's thinking that way, he wants to be positioned for 2012, and he's going to need this 12 to 14 million people that he has in that database, meaning Trump, to mobilize for his campaign.
Leslie Sanchez, Lynda Tran, and Bob Cusack, thank you guys all for joining us.
Thank you.